Hi, sewing friends. On behalf of uncommonthread.com, welcome to our monthly video. This month I'm going to be talking to you about Sulky Heat Away Stabilizer. My name is Michelle Umloff and I am a certified Sulky teacher. I'm also going to show you how to do a technique this month, and we're going to have lots of fun playing with Sulky threads and the Heat Away Stabilizer. So let's first cover the Sulky Heat Away Stabilizer. As its name suggests, this is removed by simply heating it away, and I'll go over those instructions in just a minute. This is considered a medium weight stabilizer, and you'll notice that this is a clear film, and one side of it is smooth while the other side is bumpy. There is no difference on the side, so you can use any side towards your fabric. It doesn't matter. I can't emphasize enough that you always want to test first. Use a dry iron set at the cotton setting, or at least the hottest setting that this fabric will tolerate. And to remove the stabilizer, what you want to do is gently tear away the excess stabilizer, and you want to make sure that you support any delicate stitches. Then you're just simply going to place that hot iron directly on top of the bits of stabilizer that are left over, and you want to move your iron back and forth in a circular motion until you've noticed that the stabilizer has melted. You'll know that it's melted because it'll form like these little bits of debris, and you can kind of see them in the picture. And once you're finished, you're just simply going to brush that debris away. To store the heat away stabilizer, you want to make sure that you keep it in a dry place that is away from heat and direct sunlight. You can use this stabilizer as a backing or as a topper. You can use it as in creative machine arts as well as crafting. Some of the ideas of what you can do with this: you can draw or trace a pattern onto it. You can sew directly on the heat away. You can use this for hand and machine embroidery, and you can also use a machine embellisher with this too. An idea is to use this on dry, clean only fabrics, and another idea is to use the heat away stabilizer when it's just simply not convenient to use a wash away stabilizer. The one thing you do not want to do is to use this stabilizer on nappy fabrics, fabrics such as toweling and fleece. Then the reason being is, for one, that fabric may not be able to tolerate a hot enough iron setting to melt the heat away, but also those little bits and pieces of melted heat away will get stuck in the nap of the fabric. These are just some ideas of what you can do with this heat away stabilizer, such as machine embroidered lace, Battenberg lace, free motion thread lace. And as you can see, this is a very durable stabilizer. You can use it for 3D appliques, cut work, thread sketching, and even free motion sewing and quilting. It's available in a variety of sizes. As you can see here, we have a package that's about 19 3/4 inch by 1 yard. It's also available in a roll that's almost 8 inches by a 9 inch or 9 yard roll. And there's also a 19 3/4 inch by 25 yard bolt. I also want to introduce you to Sulky polyester invisible thread. This is a very fine monofilament thread, and it's very soft and flexible. You can use this on the top of your sewing machine or in the bottom, or you can use them in both. It's available in smoke and clear, and I just want to point out that the smoke color is lighter than what's depicted in this picture. And this is available in a snap spool, and the snap spool has 440 yards. That's a lot of thread because this thread is just so fine. More thread can go on to that smaller spool, and the snap spool is the one that you see pictured here. The king size spool has 2,200 yards of thread wound on that spool, and that's kind of like your standard size spool that you might think of for sewing thread. As I mentioned, it's available in both smoke and clear. And the needle size that you want to use for this thread ranges anywhere from 1175 all the way up to a 1490 size needle. So it just depends on what type of fabric that you're working with. This thread is iron safe and you can use it up to temperatures ranging in the cotton setting. When you wind a bobbin with polyester invisible thread, you want to make sure that you wind the bobbin slowly and only about halfway. So let's start talking about our fun we're going to have playing with the Sulky threads and the stabilizer. So we need some supplies. You'll want a heat away stabilizer, some Sulky KK2000 temporary spray adhesive, and you can use a variety of Sulky threads. In this project, I'm going to show you the cotton petites, or you can use a 12 weight cotton or cotton blendables. They're all the same. It's just that the cotton petites are like 50 yards on a spool of thread. You could also use poly light thread, cotton blendables in the 30 weight, and then you could consider using sliver, hollow shimmer, or metallic thread. And don't forget, you can also incorporate the polyester invisible thread in this project as well. The size needles that you'll want to use range from the 1175 up to the 1490, and basically that's for the polyester invisible thread. If you're using the metallic threads, you'd want to use a 1490 top stitch metallic or embroidery needle. And you can also add to your list a 1490 top stitch needle solely for working with the cotton blendables, or even the poly light thread. If you want, really with the poly light thread, you can use a smaller size needle. The 1175 up to the 1280 works. I've even used it with the 1490. So you're going to also need a copy of a sketch drawing and cotton fabric as well as cotton batting, and of course you'll need an iron too. So remember that you can get all of your supplies from uncommonthread.com and you save 20% off retail every single day. Uncommonthread.com carries the full line of Sulky products as well as a variety of other products for your sewing needs. So let's get started. We're really going to get into it this time. What I did was I just did a Google search for images for a poinsettia sketch, and I found one that I liked and printed it out on just a regular piece of paper. Now the one thing I want you to keep in mind is copyright laws. I don't want anybody violating anyone's copyrights out there. So just keep in mind that you would not want to copy this and do this technique and offer these for sale, because that's actually a copyright infringement. You're going to spray the sketch with the Sulky KK2000, and I recommend that you do that on your work surface, not on your good cutting mat. What you'll do is you'll place the bumpy side of the heat away stabilizer against the paper. Then you're going to trace the image with a Sharpie on the smooth side. Next, you'll create a quilt sandwich, and if you're not familiar with a quilt sandwich, I kind of made a little picture here just to help you through that process. Nothing's cut out to size, and really you can cut this out to whatever size you want. I am just showing you how to do this technique today. But a quilt sandwich is when you take two pieces of fabric and you place the wrong sides together. But in between those two layers of fabric, you want to have a piece of cotton batting. And I emphasize cotton batting over the craft batting because the cotton batting will tolerate heat much better than the craft batting. That will just kind of like shrivel up and just melt with this hot iron setting that we're going to use, and it will be very, very ugly. But when you create your quilt sandwich, to keep everything nice and secure, what I do is I fold back one half at a time, and you want to spray the fabric itself with the Sulky KK2000. And I just repeat that 4 different times. So I flip over one side, then I put that side that I just sprayed with the Sulky KK2000. I smooth that out over the batting, and then I flip the other side of the top piece that I had not sprayed with the Sulky KK2000, and just work around like that. Then you're going to remove the heat away stabilizer from the paper, and you want to spray the rough side of the heat away with the KK2000. And I emphasize the rough side because that's the side that does not have the ink that you just transferred your pattern or your design from. I just want to give you some tips for thread sketching. I just absolutely love free motion sewing, and I really found this to be a lot of fun. Even in one of the books written by Joyce Drexler, it was called The Sulky Secrets to Successful Stabilizing, or Embroidery, I'm sorry. She mentions how fun this is, how freeing, and how you can really tend to tune out the outside world as you get into doing this. But it's very important to practice and practice some more. Think of this as you're coloring with needle and thread. You want to keep your hands moving, and that's kind of similar to coloring. You can't color if you don't move your hands, but you're kind of doing this in a little bit of a different fashion. Yes, this does require a little bit of hand and foot coordination. And probably the most important thing is you don't want to jerk or pull the fabric too hard, because you could end up breaking the needle or thread. That's not detrimental. You can always replace them and rethread your machine, but it just takes a little getting used to. So as you practice, begin to think about trying to create even length stitches. And I find that challenging for me. Maybe it's not really challenging. I just don't think about it. I just do my work, and I just have fun. I don't care if some threads are, or stitch lengths are longer than the others, and I probably have a tendency to make shorter length stitches more than anything. But over time, you're going to develop your own rhythm that's going to make you feel more comfortable. But I want to make sure that you allow yourself the time to learn this technique so that you can truly enjoy it. Think of thread sketching as an art. It's not perfection. You know, there's all this abstract art out there, and sometimes it's nothing against the artists themselves, but I just kind of scratch my head and say, I could have done that. So that's the same with you. If you can doodle, you can do thread sketching, and then you can even consider doing free motion sewing and quilting too. If you're going to use the 12-weight cotton blendables thread, you want to use that in the bobbin. And here is the machine setup for your sewing machine. And you can print out this presentation. You can print the PDF out from uncommonthread.com. But basically, to do free motion quilting or thread sketching or free motion sewing, you set your stitch length or stitch for a straight stitch. You want your stitch length at its highest setting, and the stitch width is not applicable. We're just going to do a straight stitch. Your feed dogs are lowered, and then you're going to use a pressing or a presser foot such as a free motion, darning, or embroidery foot. Your tension will be slightly lowered for the top, because in the top we're going to use Sulky Polylite thread. Now you can substitute another lightweight thread for that, such as the polyester invisible thread if you'd like. And in the bobbin, you're going to wind a bobbin with either the Sulky Cotton Petite 12 weight cotton or cotton blendables. Now that's a heavier weight thread, and it's important that you put it in the bobbin and not in the top of your machine. Since the Polylite thread is going to be threaded throughout our machine, we're going to use the smaller size needle. Okay? If you're going to be working with this heavyweight thread, you might want to consider investing in a separate bobbin case. And the reason you want to do this is you're going to find that you will need to adjust your bobbin's tension, and you really want to do that with a spare case rather than disturbing the tensions on your good case or your original case that comes from the manufacturer. And that extra bobbin case will have instructions on how to adjust the tension. So then you're going to place the heat away on the wrong side of the fabric if you decide to work with the 12 weight cotton blendables or cotton petite thread in the bobbin. Okay, you want to put the heat away on the wrong side of the fabric. I just want to emphasize that because you really have to work in reverse or you're going to be working upside down. So what you do is you place the right side of the fabric against the bed of your sewing machine. So you're not going to see it. You're going to be seeing the back side, which is really going to be the heat away side. And that's going to be facing you, and you can trace those lines with your needle and thread. If you decide to use the 12 weight thread in the bobbin, your finished work is going to remind you of traditional red work in that that heavy thread is very, very noticeable, and it's just really thick thread, so you're going to see it. It's really going to pop. If you're working with the lighter weight thread, on the other hand, you can place the heat away stabilizer right on the right side of your quilt sandwich. And what you're going to do by going over the same area a number of times, and try not to stay on the lines because that's what gives you this really sketched effect, and it looks really great, very, very pretty. And this picture was or this poinsettia was I was going to say sketched out, but it was stitched out using the Sulky Polylite thread. What I like to do, and I highly recommend this when you get started, the first thing you want to do is pull up your bobbin thread. What you're going to do is you're going to hold on to your thread tail from your needle, and you're going to lower that needle into the fabric. And then you're going to raise the needle, and as you pull on that thread tail, you'll see the loop, and the loop in my picture is the red thread. And then you're just going to pull that all the way out until you find the tail of the bobbin thread. What this does is it prevents a thread nest from building up on the other side of the fabric, and it just really looks a lot neater if you take the time to do this. You're going to stitch in place a few times, and what this will do is secure the thread. Once you've stitched in place like maybe 3-4 times, you're just going to use the trace lines as a guide. Don't agonize over trying to stay exactly on the lines. It's not worth that frustration. Have fun. Those kind of skills will come with practice, and over time you'll find it easier to stay on traced lines. But for now, just have a good old time. After you're finished with the first color, you're going to stop and stitch in place a couple times to secure your thread, and then you're going to leave yourself about a 4 to 5 inch thread tail. So in this picture, I wanted to point out that there's my thread tail, and there are jump stitches in between each of the leaves. Now traditionally, if you're planning on entering any type of work into a show, I highly suggest that you read the rules and regulations for those contests. I don't enter into any types of contests because I don't follow rules. But by traditional standards, what you're supposed to do is take that thread tail and thread it to the wrong side of your fabric, and then you take the two pieces, the thread tail and the bobbin tail, and you kind of like sew them into like the layer of batting in between the two pieces of fabric. What about jump stitches? I'm really not sure, but you know what I do? I just, once I make sure that the thread is secure after I've stitched in place a couple times, I just cut them. I just cut them really short. So you're going to thread sketch the next element of your design with the next color, and you're going to start and finish in the exact same way that I taught you. To add a little bit of pop to our poinsettia, I decided to use sliver thread, which is a metallic thread, for the stamens in the center of the poinsettia, and that just really made this pop. If you decide to use Sulky metallic threads, pretty much your machine settings will be the same, except you will need to lower the tension significantly. Okay, and you can choose to use sliver, hollow shimmer, or metallic thread. In the bobbin, you can use the same thread, or you can consider using the invisible thread, even poly light thread. Now when I made this project, I used the exact same thread in the top and bobbin, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And then afterwards I started thinking, wow, you know, I could have like a red and green side to this, and then I could do a side that was in like a black or gray to really make it look like it was sketched, or do tone on tone is really pretty too. So when you're working with the metallic threads, you want to use a 1490 top stitch needle. Start out with that type of needle. If you find that you're having some problems, you might need to change your needle. Now if you go back to uncommonthread.com, early on I did a video on threads, and it gives you some good information about sewing with the metallic threads, and you'll want to check that out. So you might also want to add some free motion quilting around the outside of your design. It just adds a little something, and I'll just mention here, since we have a good picture of it, is this was no particular motif. I kind of just, actually I drew holly leaves, my own version of it, and I sewed over them with free motion sewing. But you can check out the book Quick and Easy Weekend Quilting with Sulky, and there is a section in that book that is intended to help you become more confident doing free motion sewing or free motion quilting. They give you a lot of little exercises to do, instructions for a project, and it's just a very good reference material. So when you're all finished with doing your stitching, what you're going to do is remove the excess stabilizer, and you want to make sure that you support your stitches. Now I'll take an opportunity to point out here again, the type of fabric marker I used was actually the Children's Crayola washable markers. So I don't have any problems with putting a hot iron on that. If you're going to use the washable markers that's intended specifically for fabric, so it's a sewing notion, you need to be very careful about ironing directly on that marker. So just make sure you test first. So when you apply your hot iron, you're just going to go in a circular motion back and forth, and you just also want to keep in mind about the different threads that you used and perhaps their sensitivity to a hot iron. And then just simply brush away the melted stabilizer. So I just wanted to show you some of my practice pieces, and I was just having so much fun doing this. I really switched things out a lot. So all of the red and green thread that you see, I had threaded my machine with the poly light thread on the top of my machine. And in the bobbin was the 12 weight cotton thread. This is on the other side of that. I refer to that as the right side because when you're working with the 12 weight thread that's in the bobbin, and you're working upside down. So this is just the opposite side of the picture you just saw. And one thing I'd like to point out is I think things were looking pretty good, but I did try the thread sketching with the 12 weight thread, and you can see that on the left hand side. I really didn't like that too much. I'm going to go through the various parts here. So back to the heat away side, so this is the other side. Um, I did some thread painting, but this time I used the Poly-Lite thread in both the top and the bobbin. And you can see that thread painting in that green leaf up at the top. I also attempted that thread painting, like I mentioned, with the 12 weight thread in the bobbin, and I really didn't like it. But that's just me. You might like it better. So back to the right side with the side that was the bobbin that had the 12 weight thread in the bobbin. You can see I did a little bit more thread painting, and I'm pointing out the areas that I used the 12 weight, and I just didn't like it that much. Back to the heat away side. All right, this time I'm showing you that I practiced my free motion quilting. You could also draw directly on to the heat away stabilizer the motif that you want to stitch out, and in the upper right hand corner you can see that I drew out a meandering stitch or a stipple stitch. Over on the left hand side you can see that stitched out, and it looks pretty nice. It adds a really nice touch to the design. I tried to echo stitch, and you can see that down in the lower left, and then I did some small circles. Now with the quilting, I used 30 weight cotton thread in both the top and the bobbin, and then I also switched out and used Poly-Lite in the bobbin too. So I just played. If you're going to do that, the one thing you want to keep in mind is which side is up, so you know which is your good side and which thread is going to show. This ended up being practically reversible. So in this picture, I think it's just a repeat that I did the Poly-Lite in the top and bobbin. Oh, okay, so I used Poly-Lite in the top and bobbin for the free motion sewing. And you know, I really did like that when I finished this project, or when I made like the final version of it. That's what I went with for quilting. Poly-Lite is great for quilting. And we're back to the right side of it. So this was originally our bottom side that had the 12 weight cotton thread in the bobbin. So just another picture so that you can see what I did. So that's it. I really thought this was a lot of fun, and once I got started and started pulling out different combinations of thread, I was just like immersed into this project, and I really enjoyed it. So the picture that you see now, I did the thread sketching with the Poly-Lite. Actually, it's all Poly-Lite except for the center that I used the sliver thread. So I hope you are inspired to create this project and, you know, make all kinds of really fun things. It was just, I can't tell you how much fun it was because it was a blast. So anyway, my name is Michelle Umloff, and I have an online website, www.sewsimplified.com, and that's where I teach online classes very similar to this, except they are licensed Sulky classes. If you sign up to become one of my sewing friends, you can, or you will receive the Not Your Grandma's Bowl class for absolutely free, just for signing up and being my friend. And another class that I offer in my classroom is called Hotsy Totsy, and that really is a lot of fun. Again, it has some free motion sewing involved and using the different threads, and it's just a really cute little tote bag. Okay, I have a website, or I have a podcast that's available for download through iTunes, and then you can also look me up on Facebook as Sew Simplified. Remember, at uncommonthread.com, you save 20% off retail prices every single day. And that is an awesome deal because you can't really find those types of sales at your local quilt shop. So shop at uncommonthread.com for the full line of Sulky products and other other sewing products and threads that you need. You can visit uncommonthread.com and you can contact us at uncommonthread@comporium.net. And if you do a search on Facebook for uncommonthread.com, you'll find us and give us a like there. So we hope you enjoyed this month's video, and if you have any questions, remember that you can send us an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.